Black Scully on check. Got a little black tea on check. Welcome to another marvelous episode. It's been a crazy day. It's been a crazy week, I must say, and I'm just so thankful that I can finally talk college football. I'm supposed to be off today, end up having to go to work. That's kind of the story of my life as it pertains to where I work at. And thank goodness that I am retiring from that August 1st, and I will be doing college football 24/7. We got a loaded episode for you guys today. Some things have been moved around. We're still doing our Michigan deep dive. Of course, I can't wait to talk about our expectations for the Michigan program this upcoming year. So we're gonna talk about Michigan today. Also, I saw that Josh Pate released his top 10 SEC quarterbacks. That's something that we're going to react to as well. Of course, in our into the news segment, we're going to talk quite a few things. We saw Ryan Williams talk about how we feel about how Alabama and how he feels about the Vandy game from last season. And I feel like he used a Jay-Z bar, said we're going to squeeze them with a shoot them ass like a sledgehammer. So it'll be interesting to see what's going on with that. Greg Sankey stands firm with his against automatic playoff bids. So we got so much more to talk about. Greg McElroy, his top 10 defense for the 2025 year. Also, I'm going to get into my Doak Walker. If you seen Overreaction Monday last night, I'm going to get into my Doak Walker picks, and I got a few dark horses as well. And I'm just so excited for this episode. Governor of College Football, hashtag go CFB. CFB Nation, your only college football destination. Let's get it. Governor of College Football, we're going to recap ACC.
Hey, that's CJ
defensive
on
minds.
that.
They have to be better on that side of Alrighty, so let's get into the news. We got a lot to talk about today. Super excited for today's episode. So Diego Pavia responds to Ryan Williams' bold statement. Alabama stud wide receiver. He dominated as a true freshman last year. He's a sophomore this year. Recently declared that the Crimson Tide, and I quote, would kill an ant with a sledgehammer in their upcoming game versus Vanderbilt. I don't think people truly understand or can truly quantize what losing a game of that magnitude is like. You think of, where Alabama was, and if you go back and look at their season and you think about some games that they lost last season and games that truly kept them out of the college football playoff, I think the first two games you would think about are the Vandy game and the Oklahoma game. So, of course, they're going to be ready for them this year. Like, nobody expected them to, go out there and get a win. And, we remember, Diego, how excited he was after the game, and rightfully so, because he played his heart out. We seen his family out there. It was just a great feeling, to be honest with you. But kill an ant with a sledgehammer, like I said, that's a Jay-Z bar. In their upcoming game versus Vanderbilt, referencing last year's unexpected loss. And Diego, as a leader, true leader does, he clapped right back at him. He said, Diego said, hey, he didn't let that comment slide, and he responded on Instagram with a reel of featuring Gucci Mane's "Made It" outro, emphasizing the lyric, they acting like they tough but don't want no confrontation, accompanied by a 100 emoji and a smoke emoji. Hey, man, listen. This is what college football is all about. It's about the pageantry. It's about the tradition, but it's about the competitive nature of college football. Like, we always talk about on this show that we look at the competitive nature of college football and the idea of college football and how that pursuit of perfection is a real thing. Yes, it's a little bit tainted with, now that we have 12-team playoffs. So, but back in the day, if you were going to make a BCS bowl, bro, you better play lights out, or you may just get left out. You truly may just get left out. So we look at this. This is good for the sport. Both players, leaders, of their programs, and they're representing their programs, and you can tell that they're truly bought in. So we having this type of talk, and it's only June. We are getting close to, fall camp, but I was super excited to see that, Ryan Williams and Diego Pavia trade some jabs, and that loss meant a lot. to Alabama. It was an embarrassment for Alabama. It was an embarrassment for Kalen DeBoer. It was an embarrassment for Nick Sheridan. It was an embarrassment for Jalen Milroe. So looking back on that game, and it was the exact opposite for Vanderbilt. That's a culture building win for Coach Lee. It's a culture building win. And you look at Diego was granted his additional year. So that's a culture building win. That's how you can say, hey, you could, of course, always go to Alabama or Georgia, but where will you be at on the depth chart if you're a 4 or 5-star kid? Some 5-star kids, like, we've seen it, come in and they'll start right away. But, them 3-star and 4-star kids who really, or even 2-star kids that really are trying to go there and make a name for themselves at a big university, Lee like, bruh, come here, come to Vandy. Y'all saw a national stage. We was able to handle business versus Alabama, and guess what? You won't be buried on my depth chart. So that is a culture building win. So I like to see that so early on into the process. Like, we ain't even in fall camp yet, and we getting this type of unchiness. So shout out to both of those gentlemen, and way to represent your universities for sure. Greg Sankey, we've talked about Greg Sankey an awful lot, whether it's on this program, whether it's on other programs, over at CFB Nation or Overreaction Monday. We've talked about him when me and Moon did the World of College Football, and shout out to my dog Moon. And we did the Governor of College Football collab when we was talking about Big 12. Greg Sankey has been really firm in a lot of his stances, and I think it's just really good for the sport. And I love that he's so open and honest about his feelings. Like, I think that is amazing. And the one thing I think we can all say about Greg Sankey, you'll never be confused on where he stands. You truly won't. And shout out to everybody who's been watching this show. Before we talk more about this Greg Sankey situation, numbers are going up. Viewership is going up on the live shows. Viewership is going up on the VODs, whether it's on Spotify. Got a congratulations message from Spotify yesterday. Whether it's on YouTube, the subscribers are going up. I truly appreciate it. We are trying to build something. I think the best part about the people who watch this show, and I call you guys the 1%ers, that you guys are in early into this thing, because I'm telling you, when the season starts, this thing is really going to take off. So you can say, man, I remember Governor's first few live episodes. I was a part of that. I was a part of something magical, so I do appreciate it. But let's get back to college football, talk more about Greg Sankey and him standing firm against automatic playoff bids. SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey has reiterated his opposition to automatic bids in the college football playoff. During the 2025 SEC spring meetings, there's a lot of craziness coming out of Destin, Florida. Sankey expressed support for a 5+11 model, which would feature the 5 highest-ranked conference champions and 11 at-large bids in a 16-team playoff. This stance contrasts with proposals favoring guaranteed spots for specific conferences. Sankey emphasized the importance of selecting the best teams based on merit rather than predetermined allocations. I agree with that. And like I said in yesterday's episode, hell, I agree with that to the point, why don't we get rid of the selection committee so there is no feeling of guilt? Like, the computers don't have any guilt. They're going to use, the resume. They're going to use, how you looked in the games that you played. They're going to look at games versus common opponents. They're going to utilize everything that is required. So why don't we just go to the systems anyway, right? To take away that feeling. So I like that he is standing firm against no automatic bid. And if we're talking about 11 at-large bids, I think, and I truly believe this, and I know people won't get upset at me, especially with me being an ACC and a Big 12 homer. I truly think that the SEC and the Big 10 will do themselves a favor with this. I truly do. Because, with the 4 automatic, they guaranteed, okay, we gave them their 4, give ACC their 2, Big 12 their 2. We're getting the best 16 team, best 15 teams plus that G5 spot as well. I've also been a huge fan, a huge proponent of, let's just, yes, keep the best G5 team. We should definitely do that. 15 other spots go to the 15 other best teams. But why don't we do a G5 playoff? I've been a huge fan of that. That is no secret. Just being honest. So, Sankey staying firm against that. I think that's really good. And the best team should truly be in the playoffs, and your resume should matter. If you play in the SEC, it should weigh a little bit more heavily than playing in the Big 12. Even though I love Big 12 football, same thing with ACC. And Big 10, they don't want the last 2 national championships, so playing in the Big 10 should be heavily weighted as well when we're talking about your resume and most deserving and all of that stuff. So It's pretty interesting. So we're going to get into our next subject, which is still the Into the News segment. Y'all know how I am, man. We just like to come out here and have some fun. So Greg McElroy, top 10 defenses for 2025. Shout out to Greg McElroy. Greg McElroy, I think, is one of the people. I really love his show, Always College Football. That's truly been carrying this offseason. And I love to do the Into the News segment. And it's kind of different from most people's opening segments. I like to do it as a warm-up to catch everybody up. If you're listening to this, whether it's on, a VOD, but you're listening, on your drive home or whatever, and you haven't been able, because you've been busy at work, you haven't been able to catch up with college football news. That's why I love opening up with this segment. So if you haven't caught up, I'm going to catch up on everything. Of course, I'll give my points, but, how I feel about a lot of stuff, we get into deeper into the segment. So that's why I love the way we do this. So we're going to look at Greg McElroy's top 10 defenses for 2025. I think it's interesting. I saw this list. I think some teams will agree, and I think some teams will disagree. I just think that's where we at. Coming in at number 10, we got Clemson. I really love what Clemson's doing. When we talk about roster construction, is Dabo Swinney not one of the best in America at roster construction, at his ability to retain players and build pipelines? Georgia, Kirby Smart has been able to do that as well. And we see like Glenn Schumann. When we think about Kirby Smart, we got to mention Glenn Schumann, because I believe he's going to be a guy vying for a job this upcoming year. Him and Kane Womack, you start thinking, about some of the elite defensive coordinators in the sport. And, both of them gentlemen are under 40 years old. So you start thinking about that, and you start thinking about, coach's carousel. And I know the season hasn't even started, and I'm talking about coach's carousel already. But I like to be that forward, as it pertains to the season. I truly do. Clemson at number 10. Oregon at number 9. And yes, we seen spots last year where, Oregon did allow some points. We saw it in their playoff loss to Ohio State. We also saw it in a Big Ten championship against Penn State. They did give up some points, but I mean, damn, if Dan Lanning isn't building an SEC-oriented style team as it pertains to physicality, as it pertains to the ability to play defense and put up points, he's building that out west in Eugene. He's 100% built that out west in Eugene. And let's not forget, Tosh Lupoy was a guy that many fans out there in Eugene, they did not want him there as their defensive coordinator at Oregon. So it's really dope to see that, hey, Oregon made this list. Shout out to Greg McElroy. And then, of course, there's going to be some things we don't agree with overall. Like I said, I'm higher on Clemson than a lot of people are. That's both offensively and defensively. Maybe the most complete team in all across America. But, hey, I like it so far. Coming at number 8 is Michigan. Michigan, I think, allowed, 19 points per game last season. I think that was 19th in the country. But you think about the fact that they only averaged 22 points per game. They won 8 games, averaging 22 points per game. You, my friend, can play defense. And I know we saw Texas marching to Ann Arbor last year. Quinn Ewers was hot, and they really lit them up. But to only score 22 points, I don't think people can truly quantize how bad 22 points per game is. It is abysmal offensively. And the fact your defense say, well, we're going to hold these teams under. We're going to win 8 ball games even though we can't throw the ball. We're playing musical chairs at quarterback. Our defense is going to be solid. So, yes, Michigan deserves to be on this list. Some people probably don't agree, but I think Michigan should 1,000% be on this list. And they were one-dimensional last year, too, offensively. So, coming in at number 7, I was truly happy to see this team on here. Oklahoma offensively was bad. Probably only team on this list worse than Michigan offensively last year. The Seth Latrell thing just didn't work in Norman. Going from Hawkins and Arnold at quarterback just didn't work either. But their defense played lights out. They kept them in the Tennessee game. A huge reason why they was able to win the Alabama game. Brent Venables, you see his defense in Norman. You 100% see his defense, and I know I've said on this show that Brent Venables is possibly coaching for his job this upcoming season. I believe that. And I believe that Brent Venables should also have that attention to detail as it pertains to this season. Like, yo, if I don't get the job done, we don't get the job done, I may not have my job this upcoming year. And I think that's why you've seen their approach be what their approach is. Going to go get a guy like Jim Nagy to go ahead and kind of captain this ship as their general manager. Going to go get a guy like Ben Arbuckle. Going to go get a guy like John Matera, quarterback. Because guess what? Brent Venables knows he'll be able to play defense. He knows that 100%. But going to go get a guy like Ben Arbuckle who can possibly be a coach. You know, when we start talking about, you know, guys that are deserving of head coaching opportunities, I think it was brilliant. Oklahoma played amazing defense last year, and hats off to Brent Venables. But a lot of times we were just talking about the other side of the ball when Seth Luttrell and company just couldn't figure it out offensively. They got their guy in Mateer, got their guy in their coordinator, Ben Arbuckle. They're running more closer to what Lincoln Riley ran during his time in Norman. So I'm excited for the Sooners. They do have a tough schedule, but I'm extremely excited for the Sooners. Make no mistake about it. Coming in at number 6, Alabama. I talked about Kane Womack a little bit earlier. Of course, I talked about Glenn Schumann a little bit earlier. You talk about studs defensively, just great defensive minds, always finding a way. And both of these gentlemen are under 40. So when we look at the next wave of the Brent Venables or the next wave of the Mike Elkos, you start thinking about those defensive-oriented coaches. They're right here in the SEC. So when we see these guys start landing jobs, Alabama played great defense as well last year. So I'm liking what I'm seeing. And when I start thinking about Coaches Carousel, end of the 2025 season, I'm saying some of these guys that may be getting a job are some of these gentlemen. Number 5, Notre Dame. They continue to put players in the NFL. Continue to have stout defenses. It is what it is, man. So Notre Dame being on this list, even with a revamped group, you can't take that away from them. You 1,000% can't take that away from them. So Notre Dame deserves to be on this list. We talked about Glenn Schumann earlier and Georgia Bulldogs. They just pipeline talent. That's all they do. Like, you'll see some kids that are like, you know, Chris Jones, one of the best players in the state of Virginia, Christopher Jones, as he prefers to be called, Christopher Jones. He's like, third at linebacker on their depth chart. So he'll get some pivotal playing time this year. But, you know, next year, if he come out and he ball out the way I think he's going to ball out, because I've been able to see the kid play. And you be like, where did he come from? They just know how to recruit. They 1,000% know how to recruit. That's all it is at the end of the day. They know how to recruit, and they build pipeline, and they're able to keep people there. So Georgia deserves to be on this list. Penn State at number 3. I started looking at teams, and you know, I don't know what Greg McElroy's. I would love to hear what his mindset was, because if you talk about players on the field, if we purely talk about players on the field, I can see why maybe he had the 2 teams above him. But then you add the fact that they got a guy like Jim Knowles as their defensive coordinator, one of the sharpest minds in all of college football. Then that's when I started to say, hey, maybe they're a little underranked. And even though they're at 3 and 3 isn't bad, it's just you got one of the sharpest minds defensively in all of the sport, and how he's able to figure out offenses and truly trigger quarterbacks. That's when I started to say, hey, maybe this team is a little, lowly ranked. But, 3 is not bad. Ohio State's at 2. Still got one of the best defensive players in the nation in Caleb Downs. I'm excited to see what this defense looks like with Matt Patricia. What will be the learning curve for Matt Patricia? Being in the NFL for so long, and coaching on both sides of the ball as a coordinator offensively, but we mostly know him defensively, with the pencil, tucked in the ear, and, really like formulating great defenses in the New England area. So it'll be interesting. Coming in at number 1 is Texas. I mean, if you don't watch Texas football and Anthony Hill don't jump off the page, hey, I can see why he has them number 1. Would they be number 1 in mine? I probably re-rank some things. Like, just because I believe in Jim Knowles that much, I probably would have had Penn State number 1. I mean, I think there's an argument, even with the amount of players that Georgia put, in the league year in and year out. I think there's an argument for Georgia as well, if we're just being honest. So, our last segment. I'm sorry, not our last segment for the show, but the last headline for into the news is Austin Simmons chooses football over baseball. There's been a lot of talk about this kid, and I always look at this time of year. It's magazine season. In fact, I got to go pick up a couple magazines today. But I always think about the movie The Program, and you remember the headline, Cain is able. So I think that's what we're starting to see. Like, people are trying to build up Austin Simmons, especially after what Jackson Dart was able to do in Oxford, Mississippi for the last few years. So, I've been seeing him talk him up a lot, and I'm like, great job, Ole Miss. This is media. This is The Program movie that came out, 30 some odd years ago. And like I said, we get that headline, Cain is able. So that's what I get for this. So Ole Miss quarterback Austin Simmons, who does play or played baseball, He's made a challenging decision to focus solely on football, stepping away from a potential baseball career. Despite baseball being his first sport, Simmons felt that committing to football was the best choice for his future and his family. I've been hearing a lot about this kid. I've been hearing that this kid can really spin it. So I'm interested in to see what that looks like. And yeah, shout out to Ole Miss PR team because they're definitely starting to make a lot of noise for this kid, Austin Simmons. And I think Lane Kiffin, last year I was so high on Ole Miss. You guys know that. You know, you guys been watching the show for a while. I was high on Ole Miss last year. This year I kind of been mum on them because I kind of want to see what's going on. I wanted to wait and see, how everything's going for fall camp. But I truly believe they might be building something special. And they may be a year or two out, but I think they're building something special, and they prefer it on this side of the game where it's not a whole bunch of hype and they can just fly under the radar and beat them. So that's our into the news segment. So we're going to get right into segment 2, which is my reaction to Josh Pate's top 10 SEC quarterbacks. I think this is a really solid list. I really think it's a really solid list. And while we probably won't end up spending the entire 10 minutes on this, I just kind of wanted to look at this list as face value and also kind of think about my list of my top 10 quarterbacks if you haven't heard it. And that's in all across America. I think some of you will probably be upset with that list because my list is more Big 12 oriented. And while I think the SEC has some outstanding quarterbacks, overall I do prefer Big 12 quarterbacks over SEC quarterbacks. And I'm just being honest. So let's look at this list. Shout out to Josh Pate, man. Huge fan of his show. Been watching him for years. And I think him and Joe Clyde are truly the staples and what, a lot of us aspire to do. So let's fix that. So on the cover, of course, they got DJ Lagway and Lenore Sellers. And Pate, I didn't hear him speak on this, so I don't know where his mindset was. But DJ Lagway at 1, I think, points to DJ Lagway's ceiling. Because I think if we look at the floor, I think a guy like Garrett Nussmeier has a higher floor. I think a kid like John Mateer has a higher floor. I think somebody like Arch Manning probably has a higher floor. Lenore Sellers definitely has a higher floor. But I think when we start looking at ceiling and we look at the fact that DJ Lagway in every game that he started and every game that he finished as a starter, he went undefeated. Perfect 6-0. So you look at that, you look at the type of roster that, Billy Napier has been able to construct in Florida, you truly start to see that, alrighty, the offensive line, arguably one of the best offensive lines in all of college football. For my money, it is the best. I think they will be contending for the Joe Moore Award this year. So seeing Lagway at 1, for me, says that, okay, Pate believes that his ceiling is through the roof. That's the first thing that I think of when I see this list. Arch Manning at 2. I mean, hell, Steve Sarkisian is the play caller there. He'll find interesting ways to get him the ball. I did not have Arch Manning on my top 10 quarterback list because I did agree with Greg McElroy that I wanted to give the nod to players with significant amount of starting time. And he hadn't had, other than, filling in backup duty or, the times that Quinn Ewers got hurt. So I didn't have him on there. But you look at the ceiling, you look at this kid's pedigree. He's a Manning. And he does have an opportunity to do something that, his grandpa didn't do and neither one of his uncles have done either. And that's win a national championship. So high on Arch Manning, high on Texas. I just didn't have him on my quarterback list just because I thought he hadn't had enough playing time, to be honest with you. The North Sellers at number 3 may surprise a lot of people because a lot of the people that I talk to, the people that are, in my circle in this college football space and in this realm, they're high on Lenore Sellers. Like Nino is one of those guys. He's all in on Lenore Sellers. He truly believes that Lenore Sellers will win the Heisman this year. And furthermore, lead South Carolina to a playoff berth. Speaking of Nino, happy birthday, Nino. Shout out to my dog, one of my partners in crimes, man, business partner. Shout out to my dog. It's his birthday today, man. Make sure y'all wish Nino Brown a happy birthday. Anyway, so Lenore Sellers at 3. Garrett Nussmeier is the guy that I'm highest on. 100%. I look at what LSU, I look at their offense. I look at the fact that Garrett Nussmeier, I don't think there's a throw that he can't make. He has an immense amount of potential. Now, I know that he turned the ball over probably a little bit more than he should have last season, But Garrett Nussmeier is a guy, for now, that I have as the favorite to win the Heisman. I think he also won the Davey O'Brien as well. So I like Garrett Nussmeier more than I like the three fellas that's ahead of him. And that's purely because I think he has the best floor. Truly. Maybe not the highest ceiling. There's some like semantic we have to figure out as it pertains to Garrett Nussmeier. Like, where's Brian Kelly at? Where's this LSU team at? And I'll get to see Garrett Nussmeier live week 1. Death Valley for the Battle of Death Valley. I cannot wait for that game. I promise you I can't wait for that game. I know that Ohio State and Texas will get top billing, but for my money, the game that I want to see my top 2 quarterbacks, Cade Klubnik and Garrett Nussmeier, go at it. That's 100% what I want to see week 1. I can't wait. I promise you I can't wait. So Garrett Nussmeier, like I said, when you look at the pieces around him, he has a lot of pieces. So does Lenore Sellers, so does Archman, and so does DJ Lagway. I prefer Nussmeier over those 3 quarterbacks. 100% prefer Nussmeier. Just being honest. I truly do. So it'll be interesting to see, where we end up ultimately. Number 5, John Mateer. It's so hard to grade John Mateer. It is really difficult to grade John Mateer because we look at what he did in Pullman, Washington last year. The success that him and Ben Arbuckle had, similar to Cam Ward, but I think his was more stellar. But, and there's a huge but with this, you look at the competition that they played, they did play some formidable P4 opponents, but the root of their schedule, the base of their schedule, even though they weren't in the Mountain West, it was a lot of Mountain West. Let me clear up this camera for a second. I don't know why I was acting crazy. So John Mateer is a guy that I will have probably higher on this list. Keep in mind, I didn't have Archman just because I didn't think he had enough snaps. But I do like DJ Lagway. DJ Lagway was left off my top 10, and I regret leaving him off my top 10 just looking at the talent that's in Florida, the offensive line in front of him, a great running back duo behind him. So, yes, I like this list. Solid list so far for the top 5. DJ Lagway, Arch Manning, Lenore Sellers, Garrett Nussmeier, and then John Mateer. Austin Simmons is the guy that we talked about him a little bit in the Into the News segment. Austin Simmons is the guy that we've been hearing so much about. We've heard so much about Austin Simmons, and I can't wait because we've seen, like, recently Lane Kiffin hasn't been missing at this quarterback position. He just hasn't. Like, a lot of us weren't the biggest fans of Jackson Dart, but we seen him ball out. We truly did this past season and play his way to be the second quarterback drafted in the 2025 NFL draft. So, yes, we've seen Lane Kiffin be able to cook up, and this Austin Simmons kid, I'm starting to get the hype. Jackson Arnold. If there's a quarterback on this list, and I look at it and I say he probably can make the biggest jump, and of course I'm going to take Nussmeier out of it because I'm a huge Nussmeier fan. But you look at that wide receiver room in Auburn, you look at the fact that, that program is really going to build around Hugh Freeze with his cancer diagnosis, and they're all going to fight that together. And typically you see chemistry build, you see like programs built. We've seen it in the NFL. I said this last night with Chuck Pagano. We've seen it, in DC when Robert River was fighting his cancer battle. So I think we're going to see this team gel really well. I truly believe that. I truly do believe they have one of the top 3 or 4 wide receiver cores in all of college football. Cam Coleman is amazing. I mean, that kid's amazing. So, and I think you look at this team, you look at this program, I believe they're headed in the right direction. But we have to see it because, we look at Auburn and we feel like, just a few seasons ago, they probably could have won more games. I look at the worst game that I seen played all last year. I believe it was an Auburn and Arkansas game where, you feel like we was watching like Charlie Chaplin, man. It was just interceptions. Like, it was just like, it was just crazy. It was madness. So I'm interested to see what happened. And Jackson Arnold, I think out of all the quarterbacks on this list, can make the biggest jump. I truly believe that he can make the biggest jump. I think people are going to look at his time in Norman and heavily critique him because coming out of high school, we knew that this kid was uber talented. He was just never a fit in Seth Luttrell's scheme. He just wasn't. And it was a lot of pressure on Oklahoma. And it was their first year, making that jump, from the Big 12 to the SEC. Taylor Green at number 8. I like that Taylor Green made this list. Taylor Green has a lot of talent. I think that Sam Pittman will be coaching for his job this year. He's been able to hang around. Sam Pittman got that Rocky spirit. You know, that underdog story that, you know, and we've seen some games last year where Arkansas looked really impressive. And there was a game, I think, against Oklahoma State. I want to say they ended up losing that game, but they looked really good and should have won that game. Number 9, Marcel Reed. What do we expect out of Marcel Reed? Year 2 in, you know, Colin Klein's system. Somebody I like a lot. Somebody that I was really surprised left Manhattan, Kansas. I really was, because, you know, he played college ball at Kansas State. And I just thought it was home for him. But he probably felt like, hey, in order to get to where I need to get, and, you know, maybe a head coach is, you know, ultimately his goal. He's like, yo, I got to make this progressive move, go to the SEC and prove that I can do it in the SEC. And then at number 10, Diego Pavia. It's a solid list. This is a damn solid list. DJ Lagway at 1, Arch Manning at 2, Lenore Sellers at 3, Garrett Nussmeier at 4, Matera at 5, Simmons at 6, Jackson Arnold at 7, Taylor Green at 8, Marcel Reed at 9, and Diego Pavia at 10. Very solid list. I ain't mad at this list at all. So, like I said, there's just some changes that I would personally make. But I got a question for you guys. You see this quarterback list, how you feel about this quarterback list, and also what conference do you think have the best quarterbacks? I don't really think it's a competition. I truly don't think it's a competition. I think while SEC has great quarterbacks, you know, ACC over the past few years has had some really good quarterbacks. Big Ten, it depends where you stand with their quarterbacks, but I think Big 12 quarterbacks are. You talk about depth. You talk about a kid like Connor Wegman who's at Houston. You talk about a kid like Caden Salter who's at Colorado. You talk about a kid like Sam Levitt at Arizona State. Sawyer Robinson. We doing our walking in Waco. I'm trying to tame myself. We're doing our walking in Waco segment tomorrow, and we're gonna be talking about the Baylor Bears. But I really like this team. I like the Baylor Bears a lot. So you start looking at the Big 12 quarterbacks. Josh Hoover's another one I forgot to mention. Rocco Beck is another one I forgot to mention. You start looking at those quarterbacks in the Big 12, and what you're going to see is a lot of talent. And I think they're the deepest quarterback room out of all the conferences. We're going to take an ad break. We'll be back right after these messages. Look at you out here using all these other sports books, and you ain't even using the best one. BetUS. Get 125% match bonus when you use the promo code CFB Nation. Yeah, you heard me correctly. 125% match bonus on your first deposit using that code CFB Nation. We know that college football is in the offseason, even though we don't celebrate that. You know, CFB Nation, we do college football 24/7. But there are plenty of things for you guys to bet on.
Who will have the most wins? OKC Thunder or Cleveland Cavaliers? Can Luka and LeBron make it all mesh to make it to the play-in tournament? Maybe you're a college basketball guy ready to risk it all for Florida to make it to the big dance.
Basketball isn't for you? Maybe you're a football guy. Well, BetUS got you covered with this year's UEFA Championship. Can Liverpool or Barcelona win it all? Will Erling Haaland or Harry Kane lead their teams to victory?
May is going to get popping when the Kentucky Derby hits town. BetUS has you covered in that way too, with all major horse racing events. Point is, type in that promo code CFB Nation and go get that money.
Shout out to our sponsors, BetUS, where you can get a 125% match bonus using the code CFB Nation. Make sure you check them out on BetUS. So we're going to get into our governor's ruling, Doak Walker Watchlist, and for those of you all who are truly the one percenters of the one percenters who watch all of our streamlined content, whether it was, you know, when I guest on other shows like I did with East Coast Gridiron and a show called the Handoff, or, you know, when I'm on, you know, CFB Nation and, you know, Overreaction Monday, you probably got a sound idea of who I like at running back. I'm sure you truly do. So we're going to get into the Doak Walker watch list. I'm going to give you the guys who I think matter this year, but I'm also going to give you some dark horses. There are some running backs that you guys have heard me talk about already that you should be expecting at dark horses. There truly is. So I start talking about some of these running backs we got at dark horses. I'm super excited about it. To be completely transparent with you guys. So let's look at this Doak Walker, our Doak Walker watch list. So at number 1, Jeremiah Love I think this one is a no-brainer. I think he's the best running back in all of college football. 163 carries a season ago, 1,125 yards, 17 rushing touchdowns, another 2 touchdowns receiving. We saw what he was able to do on that unbelievable playoff run. Yes, it didn't end in victory for Notre Dame in the national championship, but he was a huge reason why they had the success that they had last season. I mean, the kid is dynamic. We know he got elite speed when he get into the open field. For my money, they got the best 1-2 punch in all of college football, but there's a lot of really good running back rooms, and we'll get into a few of them later. Like, we see this run versus Penn State. Like, Jeremiah Love, he's known for his speed, but if he didn't earn these yards against a really good defense, that was an extremely tough run. And that's why I think when we look at running backs and we evaluate running backs, and we start saying, hey, who is the best running back in all of college football? I know we love the room in Happy Valley. I'm a huge fan of the running back room in Louisville. Also a huge fan of the running back room in Gainesville. Also a huge fan of the running back room in Austin, Texas as well. But when you say, hey, who's numero uno as it pertains to running back, I think it's an easy answer. I think the answer is 100% Jeremiah Love. Coming in at number 2 on my Doak Walker watch list. This is probably somebody shouldn't surprise you guys too much. Isaac Brown. I am in on Isaac Brown, bro. I promise you. Louisville's running backs, add the fact that they got Miller Moss at quarterback, and we've seen the success that Brian Brom and Jeff Brom has had as of recent with these transfer portal quarterbacks, both of which, and Jack Plummer and Tyler Shuck, they've been able to put into the NFL. But Isaac Brown is real deal. Had 165 carries a season ago, 1,173 yards, 11 touchdowns. Also added 30 receptions for 152 yards, touchdown. He's a big play back. One thing we know about Louisville offenses, they're going to block. They're going to create O's. And, we look at the fact that him and their spell running back was able to get so many yards last year. I'm a huge Isaac Brown fan. Louisville's going to light it up this year. I promise you. For those of you who all are wondering who that second team in the ACC is going to be, whether you think it can be a team like Georgia Tech, or you think it's going to be a team like Virginia Tech, or you think it's going to be a team like Miami, I am putting in my money that it will certainly be a team like Louisville. And I think Louisville may come close to running the table this upcoming season. That's how high I am on Louisville. So, shout out to Isaac Brown. Shout out to, Coach Brom. And we'll see him at ACC Media Days. A little over a month and some change. Can't wait for that. And hopefully we see Isaac Brown at ACC Media Days as well. So, top 2 on my list for sure. I think some people will probably disagree with it, but, it is what it is. We all have our, opinions, and I respect everybody's opinions. But when I look at who I think the most dynamic running backs are in the sport, number 1, Jeremiah Love. Number 2, Isaac Brown. Number 3 is probably going to irritate some people. I have Kaytron Allen. Freshman season for Nick Singleton, I prefer Nick Singleton 100% over Kaytron Allen. But I have learned to appreciate Kaytron Allen because, with Nick Singleton, you're going to get that pop. Nick Singleton can make somebody miss, and boom, 50, 60 yards later, y'all done seen him made a dynamic play. Kaytron Allen, I think this dude kind of a lot of the nasty work. I think it's greatly appreciated. He's consistent. He's going to, move the pile. He's going to get yardage. We know that 100%. I'm just a huge fan of Kaytron Allen, just to be honest with you. He had 220 carries a season ago, 1,100 yards, 8 touchdowns, 18 receptions, 153 yards, 2 touchdowns. Huge Kaytron Allen fan. And coming in at number 4, you guessed it, Nick Singleton. He had 172 carries, and you can argue that, hey, he had a lot more production with his carries. He had, almost 42 less carries and only had 9 less yards. So for those of y'all like, yo, Governor, you bugging. Nick Singleton is definitely better. He did more with less. I can agree with that. 12 touchdowns, 41 receptions, 375 yards, 5 touchdowns in that game. When I think about Penn State season last year, and I think about Drew Aller, and I think about the Drew Aller disrespect, and I think about Andy Koloniki, and I think about the Andy Koloniki disrespect, and I think about James Franklin, and some of the James Franklin disrespect, and some of it is warranted just because of the mantra that we always talk about on this show. We almost had them. But I really think about one play last year when, they were driving against Notre Dame. They won Notre Dame goal line. I think it was like 3rd and goal or 3rd and 1 or 2, whatever it was. And there was an easy pass. Andy Koloniki called the perfect play. And if Drew Aller just put it on Nick Singleton, it's an easy touchdown. And that doesn't happen. So when I think about Penn State and we time capsule that 2024 season, I'll think about that. I'll think about other things too, like the comeback against USC. I'll think about the game versus Illinois, where Illinois had opportunities and Penn State was thankful to come out of that game with a win. Yeah, that's what I think about their season, to be honest with you. Coming in at number 5, Contrivion Wisner, 226 carries last year, 1,064 yards, 5 touchdowns, 44 receptions, 311 yards, and 1 touchdown. Really good season for him last year. And as we started to look at the yardage total and what people are doing with their carries, it's incredible what these running backs are doing in today's time. It truly is. These running backs are dynamic, and this is the next wave of running backs. Coming in at number 6, Mekhi Hughes, Tulane transfer, who's down in Eugene, 265 carries a season ago, 1,401 yards, 15 touchdowns, 19 receptions, 176 yards, 2 touchdowns. Coming in at number 7, I told y'all, I am walking in Waco. I am walking with Waco. Anything Baylor Bears related, I'm buying stock. I'm 100% buying stock. So Bryson Washington certainly made the list. 175 carries, 1,028 yards, 12 touchdowns, 22 receptions, 217 yards, and 1 receiving touchdown. I like Baylor a lot. I really do. You guys know I'm high on Iowa State, and this happened last year. I was saying Arizona. I was like, maybe Arizona figure it out and can, take some of that success even without Jed Fish and still have that same success in the Big 12. At the last minute, I said, no, I think Kansas State is going to win the conference. Kansas State didn't win the conference, but I'm getting similar vibes this year where, I'm so high on Iowa State, and that hasn't changed. I still think Iowa State will win the conference. But if there's a second team in that conference, I truly think it's Baylor. Baylor is supremely balanced, and balanced football wins in this sport. It really does. You have the ability to pass the ball with a quarterback like Sawyer Robinson, and you can hand that ball off to Bryson Washington. That is crazy to me. And you look at their wide receiver core, yes, definitely with Baylor. So those are who I think the top 7 backs are. As it pertains to the Doak Walker Award watch list, these are the 7 guys that I'm watching, and I think these 7 guys will end up being either semifinalists or finalists when we're looking at this award. Now, who are my dark horses? Nino did a great job with his dark horses yesterday, and I really love the way like D-Now and Nino both kind of like how they explain themselves when it comes to their decision making. It's really creative the way they do it. So one of my dark horses is a teammate of one of the guys I mentioned earlier, and that's Duke Watson for Louisville. Kid is impressive. I think he had a PFF grade of 90, and as great as Isaac Brown was, his PFF grade was 7 points higher than Isaac Brown, so I think was at like an 83 last season. Duke Watson did the most with his carries. Didn't get a lot of carries, rushed for a lot of yards, averaged like 9 yards per carry, and at the collegiate level, yes, he averaged 9 yards per carry, which is astronomical to me. This kid's got a lot of pop, and I think he's worth mentioning as a dark horse. If I think we'll see Louisville be more led by Isaac Brown for sure. But if there are games where Duke Watson is heating up, Jeff Brown, man, put the kid in the game, let him make plays, and that's the feeling, the overall feeling that I get when I think about Duke Watson. So Duke Watson is a dark horse for me. Jadarian Price is another dark horse for me, a guy that I think is disrespected, because he's the spellback for Jeremiah Love. But Jadarian Price is really good in open field. He gets physical, tough yards. I remember my first natty I won on College Football 25, road to the College Football Playoff mode. I won it with Notre Dame. I won it with, having that elite defense, and I ran a rock both with Love and Price, and then I made enough plays with Riley Leonard in the passing game, similar to their road to the College Football Playoff IRL, but that's what I did virtually on the video game. And there's a kid, I think, in the Mountain West, not a lot of people are talking about. He was a kid last year who had a lot of yards. Not a lot of people talked about him because, what Ashton Jeanty was doing in Boise last year was just truly out of worldly. But Jaden Thomas, UNLV, a back of smaller stature, but I think he has that pop. And I think with enough carries, I'm not saying he's going to put up Ashton Jeanty numbers. I'm not saying that by any means. Let's be clear. But a guy that can truly produce, and you look at the end of the season, you start looking at the stats, like, yo, who's this Jaden Thomas kid from UNLV? So these are my Doak Walker watch list. These are the guys I believe in it. The people that I think they'll be the semifinalists are Jeremiah Love, Notre Dame, Isaac Brown, Louisville, Katron Allen, Penn State, Nick Singleton, Penn State, Contravian Wisner, Texas, Makai Hughes, Oregon, and Bryson Washington from Baylor are the guys I think will be the finalists. But the dark horses, please watch out for these guys, are Duke Watson, Louisville, Jadarian Price, Notre Dame, and Jaden Thomas, UNLV. It's been a really fun episode. Shout out to everybody who's been watching this show. I have way too much fun with this show. I have way too much fun preparing for it. And even today, like preparing for the show, I felt like I was rushing, and I never like rushing, but it was because I went to work, and typically I'm off. So during the day, I have all the time in the world and prepare, and whether that's doing the graphics and setting up everything that you see, like the lower thirds below me and all of that. And then also prepare my notes, because, every show is probably about 3 or 4 hours worth of research and notes. And that part I love. I don't underrate it at all, to be honest with you. So let's get into our next segment. We're going to talk about the Michigan Wolverines, and where are you guys at with the Wolverines? We're going to do Around the Nation, Michigan Wolverines 2025 Outlook. What type of program will we get in year 2 for head coach Sherrone Moore? That's a question I kind of want to ask everybody. What are your honest and true thoughts about the program? Don't be afraid to comment down in the comment section. I know I need to do a better job at looking at the chat. Let's see if oh wow. So yeah, people have comments. So shout out to D now. He commented. That's dope. Post game. What is your early title favorite? My apologies, I didn't see that. My early title favorite is Texas. Sorry about that. That's a fact. Appreciate it. Kenneth Joyce, you're doing a good job. Appreciate that post game. Thank you. Talk your ish post game. Appreciate you, man. Appreciate everybody that's been tuning in. And I'm gonna make sure when I start looking at this chat, I'll make sure to start popping up on here so everybody can see it, because I'm streaming to 3 different platforms, 2 different Twitter accounts, and my Governor of College Football. By the way, we got to do our call out as we do every show. If you're not following us on Twitter, Governor of College Football is where you follow us. Go to Twitter. I'm sorry, if you're not following us on YouTube, go to YouTube, enter into the search bar at Governor of College Football. That's where you'll find us. Our VODs are on Spotify, same thing. Search Governor of College Football, you'll find us there. So let's talk about some Michigan football. Where we're at with Michigan headed into this 2025 season. And y'all know how I do. Before we get into the players, the schedule, and all of that jazz, let's take a look at where we think we are with this current team and where this program lies. So coming into the 2024 season for Michigan, let's just go back. Let's go back in memory lane. 1%ers join us. Anybody else who's talking in the comment section, if you have a question, you can ask a question. I'll address it live. I'll even interrupt my segment for you guys. I'm cool with that. So, the 2024 season, where were you at with Michigan? We truly have to go back. We have to look at, they won the national championship in 2023. Like, Jim Harbaugh truly set out on his sights that when he joined the program, he wanted to bring the city of Ann Arbor, the loyal fan base of the Michigan Wolverines, a national championship, and he did it. And he did it by any means necessary. And sometimes people not okay with that. People feel like with the Connor Stallions scandal, oh, they cheated, they this, that, and the third. And I've always said, as it pertains to college football, if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. People been stealing signs since the beginning of time. Look at the sport of baseball. People have been stealing signs since the beginning of time. It happens in football too. Now, did it happen to this magnitude? We're not sure, because, while there's a Connor Stallion story, and, shout out to him, he was able to do a Netflix special and really share, his side of the story as it pertains to it. But there's other people who have gotten away with it, and we may not know who they are, but these teams, like sign stealing has always been a real thing. So I think we need to look at it at that. So we look at first, Jim Harbaugh decides to take an NFL job, because I think everybody at that point kind of figured that there would be more sanctions coming for Michigan. You think about the hamburger gate with the Jim Harbaugh. You think about the time that he's missed. You think about the time that Sherrone Moore is going to miss this upcoming season. The fact that he gets to pick it is wild. But the NCAA is going to continue to come down on this program. But heading into last season, I didn't know where we stood. Coming to last season, I was thinking that, okay, I think I still had Michigan ranked pretty highly coming into last season. I still thought that, hey, yes, Jim Harbaugh was the coach, but yes, there were times and games that, Sherrone Moore made tough calls, like going forward on fourth down, or deciding to run the ball like 26 or 27 straight times versus Penn State, and able to pull out with those games. And I know we got the meme of him crying and all of that, but they were able to win games. So I thought, hey, if they could do that with Sherrone Moore, maybe they'll be able to do that again. So I thought that was pretty cool, to be honest with you. So headed to the 2024 season, I thought, who's going to be the guy quarterback? I thought it would be Alex Orji. I thought that his skill set and with their ability to run the ball, would give them a better look. I figured the offense would struggle, and damn, they struggled. So in 2024, the Wolverines went 8-5 overall, finished the regular season 7-5, and going 5-4 in the big to a season ago. Offensively for the Wolverines, it was terrible. It was downright abysmal. It was bad. It was not fun. Like watching Michigan last year was a struggle offensively. It really was. Like, you're just like, okay. That's why some of the victories that they have, look at the teams that lost to them, and I immediately say to myself, yo, how? Like, what they're going to do? There's no surprises in what they're going to do, right? There's no surprises at all. So 8-5 overall, 7-5 during the regular season, 5-4 in the Big Ten, a season ago. And like I said, they struggled to move the ball. And we will see musical chairs at quarterback spot for a decent part of the season. And what do I always say about quarterback battles, positional battles? I'm gonna get to that. You guys definitely beat Ohio State. You beat Alabama. I'm gonna get to that. But I'm talking about averaging 22 points per game, which was 113th nationally. That's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about you guys' ability to win games, your physicality offensively, your physicality defensively. What I'm talking about is just averaging 22 points per game. We saw the Texas game. Like, we can't run away with that. So when I do these breakdowns, I look at this thing as a glass half full. So I always want to have the best interest in mind for the fans in Ann Arbor and the Michigan Wolverine fans. But I'm also going to be honest and not gaslight. So averaging 22 points per game last season, ranked 113th nationally. And the fact that their defense only gave up 19 points per game, which is 19th best in the nation, it's like, yo, in order for them to win games last year, a lot of it depended on their running game, the ability to possess the ball. And yes, like my guy said in the chat, Elry, shout out to them. There were some highlights that came down the stretch. They beat Ohio State for the 4th time in a row. And if Ohio State fans are being honest, let's take the national championship away from Ohio State. Let's take the entire college football playoff away. At that moment in time, to be an Ohio State Buckeye fan was miserable. Like, I know they didn't turn on their TVs. I know they weren't getting on any social media because they know that Michigan was going to be clowning them. It was so golden. And fun fact for all Michigan fans who are in here and watching this right now, I predicted that Michigan would beat Ohio State. I just had a weird feeling. I don't know why. I couldn't tell you why I felt like Michigan was going to win the game. I was just like, yo, watch Michigan win. And while, Ohio State fans probably feel a lot better about Ryan Day after winning the national championship than they did during this time, this time period was rough for Ohio State fans. I promise you. Losing to Michigan was crazy, bro. And they lose 4th times in a row. And this is the game. Yes, a national championship is great. It's fantastic for your program. The fact that Ohio State invested the money on the roster. But damn, 4 times in a row, it's crazy. And then also the win in the Reliquest Bowl versus Alabama was huge for the program as well. They beat Alabama twice in the postseason. Once in, 2023's postseason in the college football playoff. And then again, this past season in the Reliquest Bowl. So, yes, there were some highlights for this Michigan team last year. Alrighty, so we talked about last year. Let's get into this season. Biggest question mark heading into the season is who will be the guy quarterback. So when I looked at the transfer portal and I saw that Mikey Keene transferred from Fresno State, I looked at him and I said, this is a guy that Sherrone Moore will love. Highly accurate, completed, 70% of his passes last year, threw 18 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. 11 interceptions is a bit high, but when did those interceptions come is the question I asked. So I'm like, Ann Arbor's getting an elite leadership, excellent accuracy, which we saw was kind of the struggles of this program, at least last season, not the season before with J.J. McCarthy. I said, okay, Mikey Keene will go in and win that job. That was my overwhelming thought heading into this, college football season, that, hey, Mikey Keene should go in there and win his job. Easily. But I couldn't be more wrong. This kid Bryce Underwood is real deal. And I know a lot of people are hating, especially, that city that's a little bit south of Michigan. And Columbus is the city I'm talking about. And I know they don't like this talent. But Bryce Underwood talent is undeniable. This kid has pro-ready size already, and he's 18, and he just arrived on campus as an early enrollee. 6'4", 208 pounds, and with knowing Michigan's strength and conditioning staff, he's probably a little bit more now. But if you haven't seen this kid, during any of the spring practices, some of the intel that we're getting coming out of Ann Arbor, if you didn't see the potential that he has in the spring game, I'm telling you, Bryce Underwood is real deal. And before the season, I told y'all 100% Mikey King was the starting quarterback in my mind. But now, seeing what I've seen, there's no denying Bryce Underwood's talents. He's 100% starting. And I know we still got fall camp, and this is one of the biggest positional battles heading into fall camp of all, not even just Michigan, not even just Big Ten, of the entire nation. One of the biggest quarterback battles is figuring out who's going to be the guy at Michigan. But if you've seen Bryce Underwood, this kid's starting year one. He really is. And I'll be interested to see how Sherrone Moore and company utilize him with their running back room. Michigan has a formidable running back room. I think that we've looked at Michigan over the past few seasons, and they've always been able to run a ball. They truly have. I mean, even dating back to, the 90s when they had somebody like a Tyrone Wheatley or, a Timbiaka Batuka, or, even like 20 years ago where they had the kid by the name of Mike Hart who could really run a rock. They've always been able to run a rock. And then now you think about, who they have. Justice Haynes, he's going to ball out. I don't think he was utilized appropriately in Nick Sheridan's system in Alabama last year, but bro, he's real deal. And I think with the shares that he's going to get as RB1 in this system, he's going to put up some yards. I think the question is, and what we've seen is more specifically with Harbaugh and Sherrone Moore, is they kind of use a running back committee. So I think the interesting question when we look at this running back room is, who's going to be number two? Is it going to be, Jalen Hoffman, or will it be Eli Owens, the freshman? Who's going to be that spell back that's going to get those yards? But I'm telling you, Justice Haynes is real deal. I promise you, real deal. So I really like this running back room of Michigan. And then the offensive line, when you got a head coach that's an offensive lineman by trade, like look across America, look at the guys who are offensive line coaches that are head coaches for programs. Look at their offensive line. Look at what we've seen out of Brent Key and Georgia Tech over the last few years. Look how physical they are. How they're going to run the ball. It's the same thing with Sherrone Moore. Sherrone Moore is an offensive lineman by trade. We know he went to Oklahoma. That was the college that he played for as an offensive lineman. So one thing that Michigan are going to do, they're going to be physical in the trenches. They're going to win the war of attrition on the line of scrimmage. They're definitely going to be able to do that. And they've been able to produce at the tight end position as well. The wide receiver room, I think, is the question mark heading into the season. I think a lot of people feel that way. Wide receiver room is a question mark, but I think a guy, if you look at a guy that can separate himself and stand out, it's probably Donovan McCulley. I think you look at, last season, didn't really, play much, due to injury, but, back in 2023 at Indiana, he had like 50 catches. So the kid can play. So you look at this wide receiver room, you look at, who's going to be the guy that stand out? For me, it's going to be Donovan McCulley, and I believe that 100%. So let's look at this defense. The one thing I think you see with elite defenses, and we just saw that in Greg McElroy's top 10 defenses, we saw that Michigan was high on that list. I believe Michigan was number 8 in his top 10 defenses. You look at this defense, what do you see? You see returning production. I know a lot of people don't like the returning production metric, but when you look at returning production in totality and what it means per your offense or per your defense, there's a lot of returning production for this team. Yes, Michigan puts player in the NFL year in, year out, but you got a guy like TJ Guy coming back this year. Somebody like Trey Pierce coming back this year. Rayshawn Benny is coming back this year. Derek Moore. There's some talent on this team. There's truly some talent on this team. Jay Sean Barham had 66 tackles last year. Had a sack last year. 3.5 tackles for loss. There is talent on his team. And I know you look at a team like Michigan. I know you think about the players that they put in the NFL year out. But there is talent coming back. There's 100% talent coming back. Just think about it. At linebacker, I just talk about Josh Shaw. Ernest Huseman, 54 solo tackles last year, 7 tackle for loss, 89 total tackles, 2 sacks, an interception. They have players coming back on this team. I'm telling you, this defense is going to be really good. There's a reason why Greg McElroy had them ranked 8th in the nation for defenses. They have ball players on this team. I promise you they have ball players. They really do. Like, this Michigan team, I think, is going to compete this year. You look at a guy who's been able to get pivotal playing time over the last 2 seasons. Defensive end Doak Walker, 4 sacks a season ago, 23 total tackles, had 5 sacks a year before that. So if you look at a guy on his defense that could possibly have a breakout year, you have to look and say, Doak Walker, ding, 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 when we look at it. So let's go ahead and do a schedule breakdown. They also were able to get TJ Metcalf via the transfer portal. He had 3 interceptions last year at Arkansas, 57 total tackles. So you're looking at a guy that they're going to plug and play on the back end. These are what good schools do. They grow their roster through high school. They build a pipeline. And when they need to grab a puzzle piece, something that fits, they go into the portal and say, hey, this guy can start for our defense. And they went and got a guy like TJ Metcalf that's going to be on your back end and one of the vocal leaders of this defense. So I like this team, offensively and defensively. I really like this team. We're already at the hour mark. I swear these shows go so damn fast. So let's go ahead and look at their schedule breakdown. Let's see what their schedule look like, and we'll give a realistic view on what I think they'll be. Now, Michigan fans, I know we got a lot of Michigan fans in the chat, man. Make sure you guys like, comment, share, subscribe. I do pay attention to the comments, and I'll also upload this independently as its own segment. Make sure you guys follow us on Spotify. That's where the VLDs are. Go give us a 5-star rating. We're one of the few college football shows that's actually a video podcast on Spotify. Y'all can check that out. And we making a lot of waves. So we're going to look at the schedule. I'm going to be honest about what I think Michigan can do this year. They're going to play physical. That's what I know. That's what the Sherrone Moore coach team is going to do. How much will the NCAA and or the Big Ten come down on Sherrone Moore? We know he'll miss at least a couple games, but will there be any more sanctions heading into the season? I believe that's the question that we truly got to ask ourselves. So let's do the schedule by schedule breakdown, and then we'll get out of here. Week 1, New Mexico, that's a win. That's 100% a win. I feel strongly about that. Week 2, Sherrone Moore's returning to Oklahoma. This is going to be the game that I think is a measuring stick game, not only for Michigan, but a measuring stick game for Oklahoma. I think I like the pieces that Oklahoma have more than I like Michigan pieces. I think there are more things settled. We know Brent Venables' team is going to play defense. We know they got John Mateer at quarterback, Jay Nott at running back. Oklahoma has a really good team. And will they ruin Sherrone Moore homecoming? I'm sure it'll be an emotional week for Sherrone Moore. But if you look at, Sherrone Moore has been able to win against SEC teams. I'm going to favor Oklahoma in this game. But something tells me that Sherrone Moore going to have something special, up his sleeve. So 1-1 after this game. Week 3 versus Central Michigan. This is one of the first games that Sherrone Moore will miss. I think they'll win. Week 4 at Nebraska in Lincoln. This is a tough game. This is a really tough game. They go at Nebraska. Sherrone Moore won't be the head coach there. But I think what we've seen is when Michigan have their coach suspended, we see the team rally around each other. And they rely on one another. Remember when Jim Harbaugh got suspended? And you saw J.J. McCarthy get off the bus and he had the free Harbaugh T-shirt? That's when we should have known right then and there they were going to be Penn State a few seasons ago. So I look at this at Nebraska. Yes, we know what Matt Rule does. Year 3, hey, it's hard to bet against. But give me Michigan in this game at Nebraska. Give me Michigan. Yes, Sherrone Moore isn't there, but give me Michigan. So that'll move them to 3-1 on the season. Versus Wisconsin. Where we at with Luke Fickell? I believe Luke Fickell was an amazing cultural builder. We did see them running the air raid. The air raid just never looked right in Madison, Wisconsin. It just never looked right. If we're being honest, right? It did not look right. I'm going to always be honest. The air raid did not look right. And I'm an air raid lover. I actually have an air raid playbook that me and my boy Moon Vibes created. And it has over 200 plays. It just didn't look right in Madison. And why? I am a Billy Edwards fan. I've been tracked for years saying I'm a Billy Edwards fan. Give me Michigan. Michigan's 4-1 at this point. Home versus USC. That's going to be a tough one. That's going to be a really tough game because Lincoln Riley, I think we look at USC season last year and then, the fan base or some people, in the media may say it was a down year. They had 5 one-score losses. They won just half of those. We're talking about a 10-win team. So USC is a really good team. So at this point, Michigan, and it's a home game. At this point, I got Michigan 4-1, only lost to Oklahoma. If this game was in California, I would favor will favor USC. This game is in Michigan. I still want to favor USC because of the game last year, but give me Michigan in this game. Michigan 5-1 versus Washington. I think this is when we start getting to a tough stretch, but versus Washington, if they're able to play physically and win it, like, I don't know. I think Jed Fisher has something building in Seattle. I truly do. I like them a lot. But give me a win. Michigan moves to 6-1. Next week versus Michigan State. Oh, no. Damn, how many home games they have this year? Versus Michigan State. Give me Michigan. Michigan is 7-1 at this point versus Purdue. I don't have Michigan 8-1. That's crazy. Give me Michigan at Northwestern. That's going to be a sneaky game because I think Preston Stone and company is going to be really good. I truly believe that. Give me Northwestern. That'll move them to 8-2. Versus Maryland. Mike Loxley and company. We may be seeing Malik Washington this week. Give me Michigan. 9-2. And then I think Ohio State finally get that monkey off their back. I'm telling you, if Michigan win the game 5 years in a row, it'd be crazy. So I got Michigan finishing 9-3. That's better than I thought. I thought I would have them somewhere around 8-4. I really did, but 9-3. Hey, you got a chance to make the college football playoff at 9-3. So that's my Michigan breakdown. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Make sure you guys like, comment, share, subscribe, share. If you're a Michigan fan, fan group, share it. I really don't care what people got to say, but I'm going to continue to give you quality content. If this is your first time watching the show, my name is Governor. I go by Lever KT, but I'm the Governor. I am part owner of College Football Nation. I enjoy this. I truly enjoy what I do. I'm live every day, Monday through Thursday at 4 p.m. We got another show for you guys tomorrow. Shout out to everybody who stayed in here. Another hour show in the books, man. It's been fun. It's always fun. Damn. So, what is it? June 4th. Shout out to my dog, Nino. It's his birthday. I know I said that earlier, but shout out to Nino. Make sure you guys like, comment, share, subscribe, man. Tell the people what we building, because you all are the 1%ers. The people who are watching this show in June and in May and in April, you guys are the guys who truly love college football. And I'm promising you, we're going to bring you much more. We got Big 12 Media Days coming up. I will be in attendance. That'll be in Frisco, Texas. I will be there. Already got the approved credential. I'm there. I will be there. ACC Media Days. We will be approved. We always approved there. I'll be live there. So y'all will be seeing live shows from Radio Row, Governor of College Football, from there. And so I always like to say there are no more victories in the sport that survive and advance. That's why college football has the greatest regular season. And until next time, that's 4 p.m. tomorrow. You all take care. Governor of College Football, we're going to recap ACC.
Hey, that's CJ on
Defensive
that
minds.
track.
They have to be better